we should be good after that.
You're not gonna really watch it while we're doing it, are you?
Well, if they ask questions, then you can
Well, if that's challenging, I'll be monitoring it as well. So I'll make sure anything that gets asked gets on here. All right, we're up and running. At least it looks like we're up and running. I'm watching our faces on multiple different screens and platforms at the same time. So I think that means that it's one, that we're live, and that it's Monday night, and that this is our Parents Helping Parents live stream. So if I'm in the right spot, I'm doing the right thing. If you're watching this, then you're doing the right thing too, probably. Thank you guys for joining us. There's lots of different things that you could be doing on a Monday night. You're choosing to spend that with us, and maybe you're watching this, maybe it's not Monday night, maybe it's like a Thursday and you're circling back around and watching it on YouTube or watching it on Facebook, just in the saved videos. And if that's the case, we're really glad that you're watching too. So thank you for joining us. If you're not familiar with Parents Helping Parents, we're an Oklahoma City based nonprofit organization, founded by parents, primarily run by parents, with the goal of supporting parents through education, peer support, and connecting them with resources in the community. So Parents Helping Parents is a fabulous organization. They've been around a long time. They host personal chapters in different cities in Oklahoma and southern Kansas, where right now, because of COVID, obviously, they're doing all those online and group meetings. And then we do this live stream just to reach out and try to pass the message on to as many people as possible. So I want to direct you to two places if you're watching tonight for more information about Parents Helping Parents. One is their website is a valuable resource to get information about the closest local chapter to you, to get information about events that are coming up, including fundraising and conferences that Parents Helping Parents might be helping out at. That website is parentshelpingparents.info, www.parentshelpingparents.info. You can find resource guides there, suggesting readings and books for families and addicts and alcoholics who may be struggling, lots of different things on the website. And also, hopefully, some people see this not on Parents Helping Parents Facebook feed, but on a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend. And so also make sure you follow us on Facebook at Parents Helping Parents, Inc. You can get all kinds of updates on meetings and stuff there as well. So it's important to remember that Parents Helping Parents is not a substitute for professional counseling, legal advice, medical advice. All of those things we think are really important, and we want you to get those if you need them. But Parents Helping Parents just doesn't do that. We've got no professional expertise or experience. We're just a group of people that are here to share what we've learned along the way on our journey, to help connect you with resources, to share our experiences. So luckily, we get to pull in people who do have professional experience to help us with things. We've got some of them here tonight that we're going to hear from in a few minutes, but that's not Parents Helping Parents. Those are the people that we pull in. So thank you guys for being here. Everybody do me a quick favor, reach up and click the share button. If you're watching live on Facebook with us right now, people are constantly asking me, hey, what can we do for small businesses? What can we do for your organization to help them? And that's something really simple that you can do, is share their content on social media. So there are, let's say the average person maybe has 800 Facebook friends and followers. That's 800 people. I guarantee you, because I know the numbers, that at least 30%, probably closer to 60% of the people on your Facebook page either are struggling with substance abuse or mental illness or know someone who is. And by sharing videos like this on your page, it exponentially increases the reach that we have to reach struggling families and struggling individuals. So it's not an overstatement to say by sharing the video, you could potentially be saving the life of a family or a friend or someone who really needs help. So yeah, share the content. Thank you guys for being here. Also, we've got a live text line going. That is in the title of this video on Facebook. If you've got questions, I will be monitoring that. You can text them directly to me, or you can comment those questions on the Facebook feed if you're comfortable with that. Remember, this is the internet and this stuff lasts forever. So if you comment on the live Facebook feed, that's going to be there. People are going to know that you are watching. People are going to see your question and your comments. So if you're concerned about your anonymity or your privacy, the text line goes directly to my Google number. Nobody sees that but me. I will not say your name when we ask the question. So feel free to use either one, but know and remember that this is the internet and it's Facebook. So people are going to see that, people are going to share that, people are going to hear that forever, right? That's all I've got. So what I'm going to do is I'm really excited about tonight. I think this, if I can remember correctly, this is the first time since we've been doing Parents Helping Parents live stream that we have really an entire kind of family sharing their story with us, parents and child. Even though you're not a child now, obviously you're an adult, but you're still the child of your mom and dad, right? So I'm excited to hear their story, to let them tell their story, and for us to ask questions and kind of talk about family change. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to the Robinson family for you guys to introduce yourself and tell us your story.
Well, hi, I am Vicki, and I am the mom. And our family has had a long stream of addiction as well as a long stream of recovery. I am personally a adult child of a recovered addict, a spouse of a recovered addict, a mom of a recovered addict, a daughter-in-law of a recovered addict, a granddaughter-in-law of a recovered addict, a granddaughter of a recovered addict, a aunt of a recovered addict, a sister-in-law of a recovered addict, and a niece of a recovered addict, as well as a cousin of a recovered addict. So lots and lots of addiction in our home, but our recovery has also become just as addictive. And we are very, very happy that we have recovered from this disease on a day-by-day basis. I grew up, as I said, in a home as a daughter of a practicing alcoholic. And I was at that time their hero child, and I did everything possibly that I could do to make the family system look good. I was a performer. I was on the stage. I was in acting classes. I was in vocal music. I was on student council. I was head of the drill team. I danced in performances. I did everything on the outside to make our family look good. And my own personal journey with addiction didn't actually happen until I left my family of origin. I joined a sorority and quickly became addicted to alcohol and started on a journey of embarrassing, disruptive behavior myself. My drinking career was relatively short-lived. It only really lasted for 8 years. But I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I decided at that time that I needed to make a change in my life. I was in the Denver airport at the time with my soon-to-be husband that I hadn't met yet. And he asked me 3 questions. How old are you? How many times have you been married? And do you do drugs? And I said 26, never and none. And he said he thought that was a match made in heaven. And for me, I thought it was love at first sight. We had a very short period of time in our addiction, relatively only 6 weeks, until we both chose to seek recovery. We married about a year later, and then started having children a year later after that. And they just were every 2 years. So we had 3 boys that were 2 years apart. Of Colby is our middle son. And we tried our very best, desperately, to stop this disease from affecting another generation. We got very active in a lot of church activities. We did mission trips. We got involved with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We got the kids involved in sports and theater and all sorts of things to keep them busy, hoping that they would dodge the bullet that our family had been plagued with. And it looked like we were doing a pretty good job on the outside. And we were keeping in very close contact with that. However, there was something happening in secret that we didn't know. And so we just thought we were rocking along until the bottom fell out. And that, as a mother, was heartbreaking for me, because I, more than anything, did not want my sons to have this addiction. I was just like any other mom. I'd take a bullet for them. And I sure wish I could have taken this bullet for him. But as I know from my own personal recovery, I had to let him hit his bottom. There were some times and some signs for me as a mother, as he was trying to stop on his own, because as I know, as a professional and as a mom, we never stop doing anything destructive unless we try to do it on our own. We really do think that we are very, very self-sufficient. And I did have a couple of occasions where I did smell alcohol on his breath. And I would say to Chuck in the bedroom, I smell alcohol. And we knew that he had lost some jobs because of his drinking. And he said, well, didn't you tell him, say something to him about it? And I went, I guess I need to, because all of a sudden I realized I was starting to enable the behavior by ignoring it and saying that it wasn't going on. And so I did tell him, and he, of course, denied it, which most addicts do. And so I did tell him, though, if you ever can't stop, we certainly hope that you will come to two people that love you very much and do know how to stop. And so we just prayed for that moment to happen. And he had to have another consequence, which we definitely did not want him to have, that caused him to ask for help. And we were so grateful that he was willing to do whatever it took. He had a great sense of willingness to get better. And he said he would do whatever we told him to do. And because he grew up in a 12-step program, we knew that probably most treatment centers were not the appropriate place for him. Because, I mean, he could probably quote the Serenity Prayer by the time he was 4 years old. So for him, we chose to send him to a couple of weekends of intensive therapy, and to help him work with his personal trauma and his hurts that caused him to use alcohol as a coping skill. And we are so blessed that we get to do this recovery thing together as a family. And we're also grateful to be able to share our story and know that we can witness to other families that there is hope if you continue to do your life in a healthy way and are open and own our behaviors and don't neglect our personal health, which I think is so very, very instrumental, both for me to attend things for being a codependent as well as being an addictive recovering person. But I am grateful that our family has over 275 years of sobriety, which is pretty incredible. And I'm grateful that his mom passed away with 25 years of sobriety, and my mom passed away with 24 years of sobriety. And it was, she was actually my very first intervention. My first intervention was on my mother. And she did stay sober the rest of the time. So we want to offer you that hope that your family can recover too.
Wow, thank you, Vicki. I just want, before the next kind of member goes, I just want to say that that's amazing, and that the one thing I think that that shows families that might be listening is that, you know, everyone is concerned about, you know, passing on negative patterns of behavior, passing on addictions and all those type things. But the opposite is also true, that when we get healthy, that families can also pass on legacies of recovery and change generation after generation. And I think that that's a beautiful thing that you guys have experienced. So thank you.
My name is Colby, and I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ that struggles with affliction, a love addiction, and alcohol and drug alcohol addiction. And so a little bit of my story. So I grew up in a Edmond home for pretty much all my life. We were at church. We were doing the things we were supposed to. And from my perspective, as long as I kept my nose clean and I didn't get arrested, I was probably a pretty good kid. And so me and my friends and my brothers, we ran this neighborhood, and we had a lot of fun. We played baseball and we did a bunch of things. And I was always the quote unquote middle child syndrome. I was a middle child. And so I didn't like arguing or yelling in the household. I felt like I had to comfort everybody. What the big book talked about, how I love to be the director of the play. I love to be the director, man. I wanted to control everything that was going on. And as long as it was controlled and it was within my realm of things that I could do, then I could dictate how things ended up and how things controlled. I remember right before I got hit my rock bottom, I was like, there's no way we're gonna get found out about our drinking, and because we got this, we'll figure out a way out. And that's just what my mentality was. It was just like, I always can figure out a way. And so wrestling was a huge part of my life. Sports and performing was always a huge part. When I was 10 years old, we adopted a young man into our family, and all the eyes turned from me and my successes in my sport to my adopted brother. And through my time of treatment, or my time in my intensive and working through that, I realized that that was a pretty big thing in my life, that I really didn't even understand how big a deal it really was. I remember I was in an intensive in my intensive 48 hours in San Antonio, and there was a picture of a young boy that was standing against the wall, and the mom was on the right hand, and she was kind of smiling and giggling, and the dad was throwing knives at the son. And that is how I felt, because I was always a performer, and I went to any lengths to perform for my parents. And a lot of that started when I was 10 years old, and we adopted a kid into our family. And so anyways, I went and joined the youth ministry. I was a youth pastor for a short period of time. Was let go from that job because I showed a wrestling move on somebody, and this started the end of my demise. And what ended up happening was I got really sour with the church. And I got really sour with the church. I didn't want to be like my parents. I did not want to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I did not want to be part of Celebrate Recovery. I did not want to be part of any of those things. But basically, I was running so far away from it, I was just falling right into it. And so went to St. Louis to run as far away from home as I could, and started to. I got part of a Catholic school, and with that came a lot of drinking in excess, and I was drinking to cope. I was dealing with a lot of guilt and shame of things that were going on in my life, other afflictions that I was having. I remember I would come home at night and I would run as quick as I could down to the shower so that I could rinse off and try to get all the guilt and shame off of me while I was self-medicating with alcohol. And my wife and I had a lot of conversations about my abuse of alcoholism, and I wanted to stop. I talk about this a lot in meetings, is that everything inside of me wanted to stop drinking alcohol, but I couldn't until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, until I really got to my rock bottom. Ended up going after a big job in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and it was very short-lived. It was a Christian school in Bartlesville, and I lost my job due to drinking on a school trip. And in that process, a lot of things were found out about me, and some really some tough things really started to come to a head. And I thought, as long as I could control everything, I was going to be okay. But what the big book talks about as well is the director was losing his job. And so it was like a slow and steady 3 months of me losing my job, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And so in that process, I was in Norfolk, Virginia. My wife calls me, found out everything about my affliction and everything that else was going on. And what ended up happening is, I remember this cold white tile floor in Norfolk, Virginia, in an airport, just crying out to God, God, I need help. I need help. And could not believe the path that my life had gone down. And in that process, I started the process of restoration. And that was probably the first time I ever got real with my step one work, is realizing that I was powerless over something and that my life had become unmanageable. And so I came home, had a little conversation with God, was really upset with God. And a huge supernatural thing happened the next day. My dad sent me some scripture verses, and I remember the text message I sent back with him was, I need help. I need help. And so this started that process. And me and my wife were separated for probably about 3 to 4 months because of job situations, but it was a time apart for us while I went to intensive in San Antonio and started to work this program. I started to really get dedicated to my sobriety, got plugged into Celebrate Recovery, and got plugged into Alcoholics Anonymous. And God started to slowly start restoring my life. And I've just continued to see God's grace completely showered over me. And in that process, we have, as a family, been able to restore my physical family, with my wife. We're completely and utterly devoted to each other, and God has just radically changed our lives. And just continues to bless us. We have 2 wonderful kids. We have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. And then we found out about 3 weeks ago that we're having a set of twins. and so God just continues to restore because I was able to get honest. And when I got to my step 3, my sponsor grabbed me by the shoulders and he pushed me to my knees and he said, "You will recite the step 3 prayer and you will start to memorize it until and then start saying it every single day to yourself." And so I started to do that, and God started to take his will and start doing in my life what I could not do for myself. And it was an amazing process. It still is an amazing process to be able to continue this journey of recovery. Something I never wanted to grace the doors of is Alcoholics Anonymous and Celebrate Recovery. And now I'm a faithful member of both those societies. So I am so grateful for my recovery. I never thought I would ever say that. I am so grateful for getting caught. I never thought I would ever say that. But I'm so grateful that I get to deal with this affliction because it makes me rely on my higher power even more on a daily basis. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to help as much as I can. So that's my story.
Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Congratulations on the twins. I smile and then I'm like, I don't know if I'm envious. There's going to be some rough nights with that, but you can handle it.
Yeah, when you offer up your will and your life over to the care of God, he can take it however he wants to take it. And so he's taking it a little bit of a curveball, but man, it's going to be fun. So.
All right, Mr. Chuck.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chuck Robinson, and I'm the dad of this and husband of this crew. I found I'm a person in long-term recovery and found recovery April 13th, 1982. And for that period of time, I am truly, truly, truly grateful. I give God the glory for that. I grew up here in Oklahoma City, went to high school here, to one of the private schools. For all intents and purposes, everything looked good on the outside with our family, with where we lived, and so on and so forth. And I got my identity all tied up in who my family was and who my father was and where I went to high school and what church, what denomination we belonged to, and so on and so forth. And I got really messed up in that line of thinking. I call myself an SOD. I said D, son of a doctor. And I think I don't mean that as a curse, but I think there's, as a son of a doctor and having had their same names of my granddad and my dad, I began to think that I was supposed to be the doctor. And becoming a physician just wasn't in the cards. My father was a cardiologist, and in the work that I get to do today, I consider myself a doctor of souls. So although I'm not PhD'd, I'm only mastered, I do see that my life work was really, the groundwork was laid by my father, my grandfather, and my mom, and the many people in my family that loved on me when I was unlovable. I had a lot of opportunity and blew most of those, not based upon what somebody else did, but based upon how I perceived things to be. And so today, a number of years later, I get the opportunity to serve the community in a couple of different recovery programs, and as a licensed alcohol and drug counselor with mental health emphasis, and a certified sex addiction therapist. And I'm also a licensed minister. I've served in the church as a recovery pastor, wrote a book called Loving the Addict in Your Pew, and have been able to hopefully be on the front line of helping families of Oklahoma City find recovery. And part of it was because I had the struggles that I did and when I had them. But most of it's been because in 1982, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Those things that she said that I said in the airport were exactly what I did. And I was really living a life of all about me. And I had been hurt and was going to hurt anybody that was in my path. And when I drank, I was not a pleasant drinker. And so I figured, and Vicki and I figured that if we get sober, then it's not going to carry on in our family. And we did family vacations at recovery retreats. We did, has been mentioned, mission trips and involved in different athletic endeavors. I coached and was there with the boys at all times and tried to do I love yous and affirm and build up stuff that I felt like I had missed out on. And all of those things didn't fix it because they had their own perceptions. And, I'm one of four siblings, and I'm the only one that got the affliction. So what my hope and prayer is that it does stop at this generation or the next. We do have something somewhat unique, and that is 4 to 5 years of recovery generations. And the rest of the story is that mom got her life changed in 1979, and ours in 82, and then my grandmother's in 85, and Vicky's mom right after that. And so change is inevitable if change begins. It's kind of like a wildfire. And what I teach a lot of the families that I work with is that the loved ones are going to learn a new language. And that new language is the language of recovery. If every time they call home, nobody on the other line understands the language of recovery, then they're going to go back to the old language. I equate it to learning French. If every time they call and they say, "Parlez-vous français?" and nobody on the other line speaks French, then they're going to go back to English. So the whole family buys into this recovery story, and Christmas will never be the same. It'll be better. What we don't know is that unknown. And what Vicki and I and Colby now want to let other families know is that recovery is possible. But we've worked really hard on our recovery. This is not just something we quit doing and then everything got better. Because after we quit doing it, we lost our coping mechanism. And so today we have to learn how to do life without a coping mechanism. So if the family doesn't change, one person may be the problem and everybody's focused on that one problem. The whole family is not going to change if all of them focus. Everybody in the family has their part. It's hard to hear a son say some of the things that he says in his recovery story, but I have a recovery story, and my recovery story includes a relationship with my dad too. And so my dad was a great dad. He was a phenomenal man. It was me that was messed up, and it was the way I saw things and the way I heard things. So there's no blame here. I'm not blaming another generation. I take full responsibility for my actions, and any credit that I might give, I give all the glory to God for what he has done in my life and my wife's life and all of my family. So with that, I'll say thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, man, thank you guys so much. Man, so many different things that I want to ask or I want to know more about, I'm gonna kind of run down through my list and maybe pick and choose the ones that I think are most relevant. Chuck, you made a really good point about families needing to know the language of recovery, because if they don't, a young person's going to continue to go back to the other language. For families who don't have any recovery experience, don't have their own recovery, have never been around anybody in recovery, how do they do that? How do they, like, what are some of the strategies for learning that new language so that they know how to help their child or at least support their child in a healthy way?
That's a great question. There are a number of different ways that this is looked at. Some would say that the family members are codependent, or dependent upon other people's actions and reactions within the family. I started attending a specific meeting for my codependency, and those meetings are available every night of the week. I choose to attend Al-Anon for my codependent work. My recovery work had to do with stuff I needed to work on myself. My Al-Anon work is how I get along with others. The other side of that coin is that many of the family members could have been traumatized depending upon the affliction. So in the essence of sex addiction, which is something that we are trained in, we treat the family members, specifically the spouse, as traumatized victims, not as codependents, not as people that's picker was broken. We treat them as someone who has experienced some severe trauma. So family members can get help through counseling. Hopefully some of the religious and faith-based organizations in our community provide Celebrate Recoveries. There's usually a family group with that. I always send people to Parents Helping Parents. I send people to, there's a sober living group called Hope is Alive that has a family program. So there's all kinds of support groups in our communities for families and loved ones. I didn't have to change. I didn't change because he got better. I changed because I took an initiative to get better myself. See, the only person I can change is me. I can't change him. And so if and I don't know how this dynamic worked because I was in the middle of it, but I'm sure he saw some changes in us and we weren't totally affected by his decisions and choices. And so because we began to do our own work, he was free to be able to do his own work.
Yeah.
And responses generally, as a person who understands recovery, asking, my son asked me a question back in the very beginning. I would ask him, well, what does your sponsor say? So it sends him back to someplace else to be dependent upon and somebody.
Yeah.
I think there's help out there. I know there's help out there for families, and I just hope and pray that the whole family gets that kind of help.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, man. I'm just going to go in reverse order. It's Colby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Colby, you mentioned that everything for you started with really working an honest first step. You made that comment. How important is honesty, and how does honesty help create the kind of catapult of change that we need in early recovery, or what was that like for you at least?
Great question. So for me, willingness was the key, right? I had to be willing to change, and then I had to start getting honest. And the first person I had to get honest with was not my parents, it was not my wife, it was with myself. Right? I had to get honest with myself of, these are things that I struggle with and that I'm sitting here trying to play God in, and I need to stop playing God. And so in that process, um, you know, one of the conversations that I had with God was, God, I don't feel you. I don't even know if you're real. Like, show yourself to me. And God started to open up the door. And that was my first time I was really starting to get honest with how I felt about my higher power, A, and B, just to that total surrenderance part. I believe that you're never really going to get step one until you fully take step one. And that fully taking it is willing to do whatever it takes for that day to be sober. And I have 1,149 days, but really I only have 24 hours. When one of my meetings, we talk about the person with the most sobriety is the person that got up earliest this morning. And that to me is how I deal with my sobriety. It's like, I got to be honest today. Like, honesty today is so important to me. Living in the present and controlling the things that I can control and not controlling the things I can't. Right. If I try to control what everybody else thinks about me, that's what I did for a long time. And it drove me crazy. It kept me up at night, and it kept me drinking. It kept me acting out. It kept me doing all these things that I was doing. But until I got honest with myself, I never saw true freedom until I was able to admit that A, I needed help, B, that I was powerless over something, and that I finally had to give up on something, and that I needed a higher power to restore me to sanity. Um, and you know, in all this, the key for me in honesty is I was a very dishonest person, and I still struggle today with honesty and being honest with myself and being honest with my wife and being honest with my parents and my kids and all this stuff. But I just really have to really focus every single day on my sobriety, and really try to do the best I can today to be present. And that is what has kept me sober for 1,149 days. And it's been some good days and it's been some tough days. But you know, when I can able to look at myself in the mirror, um, and take a real analyzation of myself, it's been good. So
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. All right, Miss Vicki. What a great question for a mom. I wrote this down as you were talking. What what are some of the challenges you had, and what would you tell like parents in terms of advice on like how to continue to love one of their children even though they're active in their addiction, and what that looks like in a healthy way?
Well, one of the things that I have learned in recovery is that he's not the problem and he's not the problem. Addiction is the problem. And these two people are people that I love.
Mm,
And I can treat them with love and compassion. But part of that involves discipline and calling people out for what I see, which is that stepping out of and enabling that. And I can hate the addiction, but I can love these two people that and be tender to them and understanding, but make sure that the things that I'm doing in my life are not harming them by allowing the destructive behavior and the chaos to continue. Because um, holding boundaries is difficult and challenging. It's excruciating, both for the person that gets the boundary and for the person giving it. It is very, very difficult, but it is necessary because we need direction, and we need that from the people that we're intimately close to in our lives. And if we can treat our family members just like we treat somebody who is ill and say, we know you're sick and we want you to get some help. And here's the direction that we're willing to go to help you. And we're going to always point you in that direction for help. because staying where we are is too painful. And nobody ever changes until staying where you are becomes too painful, more painful than changing. Because change is going to be a little painful too.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So this is a question I ask almost everybody that comes on the live stream. If you had 1 to 2 minutes to deliver a message to a family who was struggling with somebody in the family was struggling with substance use disorder, what would that message be? Like pipeline, streamlined, here's my message to any family that's hurting. From each of you, what would you say?
I guess I'm going first. Hurt people hurt people. And when people are stuck in addiction, they are acting outside of themselves. And even though that their affliction is part of them, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. And my prayer for every person that I come in contact with, that I do 12-step work with and continue this journey with, is that they see that light. And so I am very intentional about everything that I do. And the most important thing about my sobriety is that it's my sobriety. And I work my program very, very diligently. These two people next to me they've laid the ground rule of how to work a program, but I've had to work myself. I've worked through the steps almost 4 times now, and I'm continuing to be doing 12-step work, because my mom's sobriety is her sobriety and my dad's sobriety is his sobriety. I can't rest on those. I have to do this for myself. And it being selfish in this program allows me to stay sober. And when you're a parent of watching one of your loved ones hurt, continue to pray for them. My wife, she wore out the carpet on the side of my bed because she was so faithful to pray for me when I was continuing to do the things that I was doing. And she had no clue how dark of a hole I was in, but she continued to pray. And when she continued to pray, the other being had no control over me. And today I see freedom because of a lot of prayer from a lot of godly women in my life. And I'm so grateful for this addiction in my life, but it's taken me a long time to be grateful for that. So thanks for letting me share.
So I would say you're not alone. There's numerous people in our community that are willing to help, that your loved one is struggling, and if you will help them get help and get help for yourself at the same time, everybody working through this instead of anybody taking time off while somebody else is maybe in residential treatment or something like that. If everybody will do the work, then you'll look back and you'll say, our lives changed at that period of time. So I would encourage everyone in the family to do their own work.
And mine's pretty simple. Don't quit before the miracle happens, because it's just around the corner. Just keep persevering and keep focusing on recovery.
Yeah. Great, man. Thank you guys so much. Chuck, Vicki, I know that you guys are both licensed professional and work for treatment organizations and have practices. We've had a couple of people ask. I told them to be patient, that you guys would talk all about that in a second. So take a couple minutes and just tell people kind of what you guys do professionally here in the metro area, and what the best way to get in touch with you or to find out more information about the different things that you guys offer.
Well, we own a practice called Refined Counseling, and it is here in Edmond, Oklahoma. It's at 1401 Northwest 150th, Suite B. And we help people that have addictions. We do couples counseling. We do. I have had groups in the past. Right now, I have a nurse support group. So there are peer nurses that um, I lead them in discussion about addiction to keep them on track with their recovery. And I am a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, as well as a certified sex addiction therapist. And I'm an EMDR certified. So I do trauma work both for the individuals, and we do some intensives and interventions.
So I work for Vicki, and I work for a fabulous company called Origins Behavioral Health. And what I do, I serve as the director of spiritual development and outreach. I bridge the gap between those that are in faith-based organizations and resources. So I help families find the right place for them, their loved ones, to get help. Not all treatments alike. There's some good treatment here in Oklahoma. There's also good resources outside of Oklahoma. And sometimes getting the heck out of Dodge is the right thing to do. Specifically, when it comes to sex addiction, there are some treatments to go to. There are other treatment centers that are mental health only, or only licensed as mental health. Origins Behavioral Health requires a primary of substance use disorder or substance abuse, and do a great job with those that have mental health issues or co-occurring dual diagnoses. 2 facilities, one down in South Texas, one in Florida. We have a professionals program and a really specialty program for adults 55 and older who have early onset dementia, either from substances or for Alzheimer's. So we are willing, Vicki and I are willing to help any family find what they're looking for, and we will continue to work with them until they find either help or we run out of resources. And we won't run out of resources. We'll find them some help.
And
Excellent.
and I serve on a board called Refined Silver. It is a nonprofit that we are involved in. And this nonprofit comes alongside the family and the addict in order to get them to treatment or to get them into a sober living house. And Refined Silver is a way that we can help come alongside and help get people to treatment. And so we are a financial resource. And so what they do is that they apply on our website, and then we as a board vote on that and work with getting them help. And so it's a great resource. It's kind of an untapped resource. Last year we helped about 78 people get to treatment. But we're really in our infancy. This is year 3 of our nonprofit. And it's really starting to open up a whole bag of worms, and so we really want to help as many Oklahomans as possible. And our primary focus is helping Oklahomans get to treatment or get the help that they need. And we also help with counseling as well. And so any kind of help that any person needs that is dealing with affliction, we want to come alongside them and try to help them. So yeah, that's the nonprofit that we're involved in.
For people that are watching, in the Facebook comments for this video, which will be there permanently, are the websites to Refine Silver, Origins Behavioral Health, and Refine Counseling. So all of those links are in the comments for people that are watching. Easy access, click on those. That's how you get in touch with these fine people for more information. And then Colby, just wrapping up real quick, somebody was just curious how old you were when you started using it and how old you were when you got sober.
I took my first drink of alcohol 2 weeks before I turned 21 years old. And I got sober when I was 32 years old. So I spent about 9 years actively acting out and drinking. But by God's grace, I get to work this program, and I realized today, actually this was probably a couple of days ago in my quiet time, I was realizing that now that I have 2 more kids on the way, it's a pretty high possibility that one of my kids is going to deal with affliction. And I just continue to pray that that it stops with me, but if it doesn't, that my kids are willing to ask for help, like I was. And I know that some, it's harder than others. It's hard to ask for help. But healing begins when we're on our knees. And for me, it took me a while to get on my knees, but healing started to begin. And because of the work that these 2 people do on a daily basis, and because I got to watch them work their sobriety, it allowed it to be a little bit easier for me to work mine. Yeah. And so I just ride their coattails, and I tried to follow suit. I never really wanted to be like them, but I'm exactly like them, and I love it, every bit of it. So yeah. Thanks for this. This has been definitely helps us for sure.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, man, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for being willing to take time out of your day and away from your families to do this. Thank you for your vulnerability and sharing your story. Thank you for all the work that you guys do through the nonprofit, through your agency, and through Origins. I mean, I know personally, because I've known you guys for a long time, that you make an impact on the recovery community, both locally and nationally. So just thank you for all you do. Look forward to the next time I get to run into you guys at a meeting or at a coffee shop or something. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks for our next one. All right. Everybody have a great week.